Michael Stewart, a very competent minister of your word, and dear Lord, does a lot of research and disseminate information very well. Oh Heavenly Father, we pray, dear Lord, that we would be be involved, oh Heavenly Father, that it will be interactive and we're able to share our views and our feelings, oh Heavenly Father, and that you're able to help us to deal with those issues. Thank you, dear Lord, for this forum. Heavenly Father, we pray that all will go well this day, and dear Lord, everyone will participate. Once again, we praise your name and we glorify you, and we offer up this prayer to none other but in the name of our Lord and loving Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
One quick thing from me before we hand over the protocols for the meeting. Excuse me, as is the normal now with these Zoom meetings. We're asking for people to remain with their mics muted unless there's a question to be asked or comment to be made. Brother Michael, as he goes through, I'm thinking that we're going to get questions at the end. Not certain if we'll entertain during the presentation, but he will guide us through as we go today. So, Brother Michael, I now hand over to you.
Thank you very much, brother. Appreciate it, and I appreciate the invitation to be here. I like the idea, and I want to commend the building at QEP for having the foresight to bring up topics that are considered non-scriptural topics. And the reason why I say that is because many times we think that we need to preach the gospel every time, but there are things that people are grappling with on the outside that are not mainstream scriptures. And one of the things that QEP has been, and probably the family enhancement in particular, when you look at some of the topics that they deal with real life issues. And for that, we are grateful and we want to be part of that. And we are happy to be part of it today. All right, so let's see if we can, I was hoping to share it on our chat. I don't know if I have the, I think I could do that because I wasn't getting it before. All right, so let's see if we could now help you with this whole aspect of the whole aspect of coping with COVID. If you just give me a minute there, brother, let me, because there are some people who want to log on our church Facebook, and I wanted to post it to the church Facebook page.
Sure, no problem.
Somehow it is posting to my page and not to the church's page. I don't know why. Okay, I may have to abandon that because I'm not getting it to post to the church's page. Oh, I think I see it there now. Okay, I'll have to abandon that. So I will share my screen. Are you seeing it?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful. Okay. Coping with COVID. COVID is new. COVID is new. It is uncharted waters. No one has ever been here before. Of course, we've had similar situations, but we've never had COVID. We've never had what we are seeing. And there are people who may have experienced during the time of early pandemics and so on. But this generation, most of us have never experienced what we're going through here before. So it wasn't so bad when we had the initial lockdown, but now that the lockdown is running on for months, and it is envisaged that this thing is going to be with us no less than 2 to 3 years again. By the time they have the vaccine and all of that and put things in place, quite a number of time has been passed. During this period of time, people are experiencing loss of loved ones Loved ones have been going to the hospital, they can't visit them. Disconnected. Loved one has been have died, and you cannot attend the funeral of your own family. Sometimes a brother, sister, child, mother, father, that you cannot even attend the funeral because you're out of the country and locked out. It is really a stressful time for many people, and many people can't cope with it. I saw YouTube where a grandmother she has not hugged her grandchildren for so long that the children built a plastic thing outside of the house. With when the grandmother comes, the grandmother pushes her hands into this plastic thing. She then completely covered by plastic, and she gets a chance to hug them. Just the hug alone is what she wanted, because she has not been able to do that so long. But still, she cannot feel them in the true sense of the word. But it was very touching watching that, and that you have to now make something to create this thing. There's a woman that I know, they just came to visit the country. She has medical issues that she has to attend to in the United States. And since she came in, she has not been able to go back to get her medical issues, and she is frustrated. Going on how many months now? 5, 6 months, probably, because I think we started the lockdown. She must have come here just before the lockdown, so we have to include those months. And then now since the months of the lockdown. And she cries and she cries, but she's in the house by herself, all alone. So what do? Stress is the result. Stress is when you question your ability to cope. Anytime you question your ability to cope, it is stressful. So there's good stress and bad stress. As you see here, a good stress is when you're getting married. A lot of stress. Can I really deal with this? All of the plans I've got to put in place. Can I be able to live in this marriage happy and so on? And it creates stress. So many people, the honeymoon has been a stressful honeymoon, coming through just planning the marriage, planning the wedding, and so on. But that's good stress. And then you have the bad stress. When you are acting, do I really understand this exam? Can I really handle this job? And we go through that. And now we're asking ourselves, can we handle COVID? Now, COVID has so many unknown factors. These are the things that we just don't know. And I'm not very good with mathematics and statistics, etc. But, I was asking my son when I had a particular assignment doing. I said, they say, find X. How do you find X? Why didn't they just tell us what X is? How do you find it? My son teaches maths in the United States. So he's kind of familiar with this thing. But he told me something that I will always remember. He said that if you have to find X, don't stress yourself about the thing you do not know. Get familiar with what you do know. So therefore they said 6 and X equals 10. He says, deal with what you know. 6. You know about 6. You know 10. But you don't know X. Don't stress yourself out about X. Deal with what you know. You know 6, you know 10. So therefore, work with what you have. He said, now take away 6 from 10. With what you know. And X appears. 4. I never forgot. I never forgot that. And I have learned now, don't stress yourself about things that you don't know, the uncertainties of life. The Bible says that God has hidden some secret things and kept some secret things for himself. But there are some things he has made known unto us. Don't stress yourself about the things you don't know. So we don't know how long COVID is going to be. We don't know whether we'll survive COVID. We don't know if we'll get COVID. Don't stress yourself out about that. That's one of the coping devices that I want to put on the table immediately. So I have learned during this COVID, what I don't know, I will not fight up and fuss myself over. That is X. I will deal with the 6 and I will deal with the 10. And then God will reveal by and by the X. And this is why the songwriter says, we'll understand it better by and by. So just leave some things to God. Coping. This is a conscious attempt to address and adjust to an extreme situation to give you the least possible stress and disruption. So that's how I go. Stress is when you are challenged. Remember that? When you are challenged or you question your ability to cope. So let me tell you, if you know what you can cope with, it never bothers you. You know, I can't tell ever jumping into the motor car and stressing about, I wonder if I could drive. I never could drive this car. I think I'm proficient in driving, so it never bothers me. But a new driver, somebody who's unfamiliar with the car or the road, or if I am in a country that I've never driven in before and they are driving on the other side of the road, what we call the wrong side of the road, and we are driving in that country, and there are so many turns, and if you miss your turn, you have to go so many miles down the road and on. I'm stressed because I question my ability to cope. But you know, my relatives that live in that country, the drivers are ordinary. So when you question your ability to cope, you have that issue. And now your coping is that attempt to address it and adjust to it because it is an extreme situation. And you are now looking to get the least possible stress and disruption in the entire scenario of things. So COVID was previously called the novel coronavirus, new, right? Discovered in 2019. That's where they got it. Now, of course, people saying COVID really mean, I think they said certificate of vaccination ID. So they are trying to say that there's going to become a vaccination that everybody would have, but it will also give you an ID. They are going to put this system inside of you that they can track everywhere you go. And some people have said this is the 666. This is the thing where the mark of the beast and so on. I ain't going into all of those issues there because I have no basis for all of that. This is COVID. This is the coronavirus that was discovered in 2019. So it's a virus. It is novel, meaning it is new, unusual. It is an unseen enemy. That's the worst enemy to deal with. An enemy that you cannot track, you cannot see. I don't know how many of you people watch Star Trek, but I'm a lover of Star Trek. And the Klingons invented a cloaking device for their ship. So what happened is that it operates with stealth. That's how the coronavirus does. Stealth is, it is not obvious. Because it has a cloaking device, it makes the Klingon the enemy ship of the Star Trek, of the Starship Enterprise. It makes them vulnerable because they could now be in a space and the Klingons sail their ship right up to the starship and open fire, and they never saw it coming. So it became very dangerous. It became very worrying also for Captain Kirk. And in the coronavirus, it is unseen and it operates with stealth. You could be home as much as you want, as long as a grandchild comes home, as long as a child comes home, as long as a member of the public comes home to visit you, as long as anybody comes home, you have no idea how close you are to the enemy, the virus. You could go to work, you wash your hands, you do your sanitization, you could use your sanitizer every minute of the day, and bam, corona is in your space. And then you might know somebody, but that person may have gone by somebody else who have gone by somebody else, but you didn't go, and you know this person that you know did not go, but that person they know went. You understand how difficult this is. So there's a difference between bacteria and virus, and let me explain that. Bacteria, they reproduce on their own. And bacteria, most bacteria are harmless. So some bacteria will give you an irritation on the skin, a rash, and so on. But really, how much harm would you cause that? Most of it doesn't. Some help by digesting food because bacteria in the gut is good. Because if you purge yourself too often, you could find yourself constipated because the bacteria needs to break down the stuff in your intestine. So that's why you must not take purge and cleansing too often. You see, because they are bacteria, good bacteria, destroy disease causing by microbes. That's what the bacteria does. And they also have cancer fighting skills. Yeah, that's what bacteria does. So they ain't so bad after all. They provide essential nutrients. If I'm not mistaken, yogurt, it depends upon bacteria. So fewer than 1% of bacteria cause diseases in people. Not bad. However, viruses, and corona is a virus. They are smaller than bacteria. So they can get into anything. This is why when you're not wearing your mask properly and you're wearing it as a chin guard and you're wearing your mask just to fool people, so it's a jersey that has plenty holes and you just put that over your nose just for that, you're not doing other people any good and you're not doing yourself any good. It is smaller than a bacteria. Can you see a bacteria? No. You can't survive without a living host, the virus. It cannot survive without a living host. So it needs you. It needs the people who are careless, the people who want fun and happy hour. It needs their body to survive. So when people go out and they want to be able to break all the protocols and so on, the bacteria says, hey, look a fool. I need somebody who's foolish enough to not understand me, for me to live in them. And unfortunately, they bring that to the innocent people. There are innocent people who have caught the virus, but there are fools also who bring it. A virus attaches itself. It attaches itself to cells and usually reprograms them to reproduce themselves. So when it mutates, it joins your cells and it reproduces itself, not the cell. It reproduces itself. So therefore, you will end up having more and more growing of the virus over a period of time. And before you know it, your body is completely overtaken and your cells are compromised. And that is why people with immune compromised system, I think they call it immunocompromised system. And I think they have been a new one that they use in the news now. Comorbidity. We have other issues in your system. It means that it's going to lick up that system very quickly. So unlike bacteria, less than 1% of bacteria brings out a disease. But most viruses cause disease. So now we have to talk about how do we cope? How do we cope during COVID? There are three areas that have been asked this week on the COVID: financially, psychologically, socially. I'm going to leave space for questions. So let's deal with financially. Money and the lack thereof are sources of stress during COVID. You see, the thing is, if you have money, you are stressed out because you want to know if you can keep it safe and continue to have money after COVID, because COVID is eating up a lot of money. Check the government. The government has already signaled that this thing may be with us for 2 to 3 years. There is a certain amount of financial backup that we need in order to be able to surmount this time of COVID. And we're going to get into that in just a while. But even if your bank account has money to pay your bills, because your bills will continue to run, Even if you are home, your bills will continue to run. Those of you who work with government and so on, there's a certain amount of assurance. But don't get too comfortable, because the government is using money that is not being replenished to keep you being paid sitting down home. Some people have taken it as a largesse, as a blessing. I don't have to go to work and I get in money. Don't get too comfortable with that, because the impact of that is going to hit us down the road. You check 2 to 3 years from now and the kind of financial suffering that is likely to take place, because the government is buffering and keeping us buoyant. And there are people who think that this is a blessing. It's not. There's nothing free. But we're going to come to that. So if you have plenty of money, you are stressed out if you can keep it safe. Because now those who have run out of money will try to steal and to plunder from you. If you have little money, you're also stressed out, because you're also stressed out if you can, if you don't have money, you are stressed out if you can keep, the money can keep you. First is if you could keep the money safe, now is if your money could keep you. So the financial stress issues, I have a question. And I ask everybody to answer this question themselves. How secure is your current income stream? By that I mean, whatever it is that keeps you paying your bills and supporting you, how secure is it? You're a government worker? Yes. So therefore, you know that you're secure. If you are a public servant, you are fairly secure. But depending on if the government has a continued reserve, a foreign reserve, a buffer that will be able to continue to keep the country operating. Trinidad and Tobago imports most of its goods and services. And so therefore, there's a certain amount of foreign reserve that must be available in order to keep that going. If the government does not make certain changes, if you do not make certain changes, such as planting your food, and you think you should be able to continue to go to the grocery to buy your lettuce and buy your peppers and all of that, and you have made no attempts to deal with it, there will come a time, there may come a time, there's likely to come a time that the government says we do not have enough cover, financial cover, to cover us for the next 2 or 3 months, which means there will come a time that we can no longer import food. That's why people who start gardening, doing the right thing, planting their own things, people who stop buying things that they don't need to buy. Do you really need cornflakes? Do you really need cornflakes? Do you really need apples? In fact, they're saying that one guava grown in the Caribbean has more nutrients than apple. Look at the size of our guava. They said one sour cherry in the Caribbean is more nutritious than a bunch of grapes. But we like foreign things. What am I saying all of this for? Is to help you to learn how to cope. Make the adjustments from now. You see, that is important. How secure? Now, if you are not working in the government, but you are self-employed, of course, you know that is another stress. Because you are self-employed and you are depending on other people to have money to come and buy goods or services at your establishment. So therefore, if they are not getting money, you don't get money. This thing is all interrelated. Everything is a cycle. Everything is a circle. You cannot operate separate from everything else. That's the reality of it. So how secure is your income stream? Let me suggest to you that you should have multiple income streams. If you go on YouTube, you'll see Jackie Stewart, my son. He posts some videos now on helping people with their financials, in budgeting and securing money and so on. I wanted him to teach that part today, but he has another engagement. But he has a number of YouTubes out. So you just look there, Jacquize Stewart, Jacquize, Jacques Stewart on YouTube. But I want to suggest to you, do not settle for one stream of income. Not in the way things are going right now. If you lose that one stream, all fall down. Create multiple streams of income. There are some people start making masks for sale. Good idea. There are some people selling sanitizers. They're buying the sanitizers wholesale and selling it retail. Good idea. You understand? Increase your stream of income. Plant your garden and sell your excess. Keep what you can. I have another question for you. If you should lose your job tomorrow, how long would it take before you can no longer pay your bills? That's a question to you. And I want you to reflect on your own bank account, your own resources, the money you have stashed away. I want you to calculate how much money you need to live the standard of life that you are living now. Is it $6,000 in order to pay all your bills, in order to pay your transportation, in order to pay for food and etc.? Is it $6,000? Then in order for you to know how long you will have to survive in paying your bills, you have to look at how many $6,000 you have put away, if it is $6,000. So if it is $6,000 and you have $12,000, then in 2 months' time, you will be a pauper. Now, I don't want to discourage people, but I'm just telling you. That's the reality of it. In 2 months' time, there are some people, unfortunately, live paycheck to paycheck, which means if salary is delayed this month, they're already in crisis. They don't have a savings that they can pull from and pay their bills all the time until they get paid. In our congregation, we taught us a program called Kingdom Wealth. We did that last year, the end of last year, Kingdom Wealth. And we were talking about, we encourage the brethren to have between 6 to 12 months of your expenses, your monthly expenses, 6 to 12 months worth of that, put away untouched. So we started working on that. We did not know COVID was coming. So some people got up to 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, etc. A member have called me and said, when COVID started, their businesses shut down or their income was compromised. And it is that savings that has kept them going so far. Well, of course, COVID is lasting longer than people expect. So, you know, people are now reaching to points of the time when they are really running out. But they would have been out long ago had they not had. And I want to suggest part of your coping mechanism, coping with COVID, do as Joseph. Joseph was the man for COVID. Joseph said there's going to be 7 years of plenty. Save while you have it. And then there will be 7 years of famine. Your savings during your plenty will work for you in your famine. That's a good principle. We are a spendthrift consumer society. We get joy from spending, whereas the rich get joy from saving and investment. Every time they save the money or they invest the money, there's a joy that they get. We like to go to the mall and spend. We get the joy out of spending. But we need to recognize if we're going to turn the pendulum, swing the pendulum the other way, we've got to learn to save. We've got to learn to put away money for the rainy day. That's what our parents told us. And much of the things our foreparents told us, we see that had we taken their word about washing our hands before we come to the table and cleanliness, and even now in saving. And they also told us, don't put all your eggs in one basket, which means multiply and have many streams of income and savings. They understood it. We ignored much of it. So if you say, when I think of my account, I think I could last for the next 3 to 4 months. Even if I get no money coming in right now, then you're not doing so bad. If you say 6 months, then you're doing better. If you say a year, here's what happens. If this country shuts down, if you lost your job, if you get sick and you cannot work because you're on sick leave for 1 year, it will take you 1 year before you even smell difficulty financially, because all your bills are able to pay it up to 1 year. I hope I'm touching some people here, because I think that it's necessary for us to start looking at how things operating in our lives as how we have been doing it in previous times gone by. All right. So let me run along. Psychological, physiological, and mental issues during COVID. Psychological is thinking, processing. Physiological, physical, how we feel during this time. Mental has to be our capacity, cognitive capacity, etc. Let's keep our mind busy during COVID. Netflix isn't on. There are people now have so much time. They could pass so many courses now, because jobs will become hard later on. Eh? You'll have so many people looking for jobs. You can now have a chance during shutdown to qualify yourself, and many of these courses they are now giving free. Even if it is not to give you an additional qualification, it develops you. Take hold and take charge of those opportunities of all of those courses that are going on now. Many of the institutions have gone online, the tertiary institutions, the universities, the COSTATs, and all of that have gone online. You don't have to leave home. Take the opportunity to go online. Put down the Netflix binging. It is not going to take you anywhere. It is going to put you in a psychological mess if you sit down utilizing the time watching television. And I think I don't even think that people understand the power of this virtual. I was in worship one day, and I was getting a text from a member of another island, and I asked the person when the text was coming in. I said, "And you in worship?" They said, "No." I said, "Why?" They said they got up and they wasn't feeling well. I said, "Do you know that worship is online and your congregation is online?" And they said, "Oh my," they actually forgot. You know why? Because the excuse of not feeling well and not going to church has come so common that she knows that it is virtual. But they did not relate to her that she can be in her bed sick and still be in the worship. She said she never considered that, because the excuse was more powerful. And that is the malaise, that is the lax way that some people have operated when it comes with dealing with things in their minds and in their lives. So keep your mind busy. You can now go to 3 and 4 worships in one day. Before you could only go to one worship, one space, one place, and sometimes you have to go to the same place twice, morning and evening. Now you can go multiple times, and here's what: even if you can't go at a particular time, you can go and watch it back on Facebook. And in this case, you can watch back this family enhancement on YouTube. The wonderful opportunities, and people are not taking advantage of it. We should grow leaps and bounds spiritually because of the amount of spiritual food we can get at will. Make your downtime your uptime. Utilize that. If you don't do that, you are going to find that mentally you will become very lazy, because your mind is not engaged. And when your mind is not engaged, you are going to now find yourself in a situation where you're going to feel as though, well, lethargic. Use the internet to register for courses and to positions you for betterment post-COVID. Watch your weight during COVID. It could get away from you. Why? We sitting down so much. We eating so much, and that's probably some of the issues. I have put on weight, I'll admit that. Okay. Yeah, I have put on weight. But you have to manage your weight. There are some people who have put on weight and they are not happy with their weight, and mentally it's beginning to affect them. It's beginning to affect who they are and how they feel about themselves, and it's affecting how they dress now. You see? So a number of changes will be taking place in you, on you, about you, that you need to manage and keep your sanity with. Your sleep will change. Have some of you all recognized some of the changes that are taking place in your sleep? You're sleeping later, going to bed later. Some of you waking up 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and can't fall back to sleep. Some of you used to wake up 6 o'clock and now waking up 8 o'clock in the day. Yeah. It's what we call the circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm is that natural internal process that regulates your sleep-wake cycle, when you sleep and when you wake up, and repeats on each rotation of the earth roughly every 24 hours. So people have different rhythms. So students who are studying for exam would be going to bed so late, let's say midnight, that even after the exam is finished, they don't find sleep coming to them until midnight. There are people who used to work and get up for work 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and head out to work for 8 o'clock, that even when they're no longer working or they retired, that they're still getting up. Talk to me, Brother Antoine. They're still getting up some of those same times to go when they don't have to go to work. Even if they get up and they have to go back to sleep, they get up because their circadian rhythm kicks in. But COVID upsets all of that and changes your circadian rhythm. The brain is tuned to recognize daylight even when your eyes are closed. So once the sun begins to rise in the morning, it triggers, it sends a message to the brain, daylight is here. And without a clock, you can wake up. This is why people who travel a lot and they travel from one time zone to the next time zone, they have to check into a hotel. You ever wondered why the hotels, the blinds, the curtains, or the drapes, when you pull them, the whole room is pitch black, even though it is broad daylight? It's because there are people who have traveled all night or all day, land up in the country and check into the hotel. If you don't block out that light, they could find themselves being awake for 2 days straight, because the light is going to keep them awake, because the brain thinks it is daylight when they just came through daylight somewhere else. So you always block that out. So during COVID, people have adjusted they didn't have any work to go to, so they waking up later and they staying up later, playing, talking, watching TV, and so on. So the system is off. And that happens to be a challenge that some people are having. But if you stay up long enough, often enough, it has its debilitating impact upon you physiologically. Your blood pressure. It has its impact upon you as far as your mood is concerned. You become more irritable. You get vexed at some simple things. You start a quarrel for some simple thing because your body is going into crisis. So those circadian rhythm, your deepest sleep is 2 o'clock in the morning. And there are some people still up on Facebook 2 o'clock in the morning, when that is supposed to be their deepest sleep. If you find 2 o'clock in the morning happening too often and you are still awake, you are missing out on that deep sleep, which will have its impact upon you. It is said that 4:30, your lowest body temperature is recorded. So that is something that you need to also keep in mind. 6 a.m. and 6:45, the sharpest blood pressure rise takes place. And then 7:30, melatonin secretion stops. Right. So I'll come back to that issue of melatonin. At 10 o'clock in the morning, highest alert. That is one of your best times that you are able to understand and grasping. 10 o'clock in the morning, mid-morning is when you're at your highest. Right? So the melatonin stops at 7:30, highest alertness, and then at midday, you now experience a measure of tiredness because you just came through a high. 2:30 in the afternoon, your best coordination. Fastest reaction time is at 3:30. 5 o'clock is the greatest cardiovascular efficiency. Muscle and this is why I guess this is why people exercise more at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Highest blood pressure is recorded at 6 o'clock. Highest body temperature at 7 o'clock. Melatonin secretion starts at 9 o'clock. Now, what is this melatonin secretion? Melatonin secretion is that sleep-wake hormone that is deposited into your body. You begin to start taking the down. My body, I will be charged as full as ever. And at 5 to 12, I start to take a dip. And I could tell when 12 o'clock has hit because my tiredness, because of my day, hits at midnight. So even when I'm out of the country and it is midnight at home, but not midnight in the country that I am, a tiredness hits me and I'm saying, oh, about now it's 12 o'clock home. That is how powerful that circadian rhythm is. It really charges you. Now, if you miss your deepest sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning, that's where people who work shift lose out, because that deep sleep is going to affect your rejuvenation of cells, your thinking process, etc. And we will come to talk about that early morning. So 10 ways to improve this circadian rhythm to get back your groove. They say a protein-rich breakfast. Protein gives you strength and energy to get on with your day. Make sure you have a good protein breakfast. Get some sun. Our parents used to say, even if you have to get up, go outside and then come back in and go and sleep, it's better you do that than you stay in bed and let sun meet you in bed. So it says get some sun. Vitamin D comes straight from the sun. It's vitally important for your physical and your mental health. Let that sun hit you. Do you notice that old people sometimes would get up, walk out with a stick out in this morning sun, and just walk about. We used to see them doing that, and we wondered, why do they do that? They're trying to get vitamin D. And there are many people with a vitamin D deficiency because they go to bed so late, and by the time they wake up, the vitamin D component of that early morning sunlight, they have never been able to have that hit them. It even deals with your skin tone and how healthy your skin looks, etc. Exercise every single day. Keep your body toned. Reduce the number of things that stress you. There are so many things that stress us out in a day. Start looking at what are the things that stress you out. What are the things that stress you out? How do you know something is stressing you out? When you question your ability to cope. Get rid of some of those things. And it may mean get rid of some of those people. All right. Be still. I said there were 10 of them, but I think it is more than 10 again. and quiet before bedtime. Though those who have studied this have said it's a bad thing to have your television on in a bedroom. Why? That's artificial light. Remember, the brain picks up light source to signal it is wake up time. So you'll find it harder to go to bed if your television is on, even if the lights in the room is off. That television that's flashing, you don't get into the deep, deep sleep. You may think you slept with the TV on, but technically you were hearing all those sounds. You were getting all those flashes, and your brain is responding to all of those external stimuli. So therefore, move out television. I used to have a television in my room. I no longer have a television in my room because it really does not help you. It more takes away from you. It affects your sleep cycle. Anything that has artificial light, your laptop, your iPad, all of that, try not to have those on just before sleeping. Be creative with your time. Use your light time as wisely as possible, because here's what: dopamine, which is a chemical that is deposited into the body, dopamine is the same thing that people get from some drugs, cocaine and some of these things. Every time you have dopamine, dopamine makes you want to get more of the dopamine feeling in your system. And that's why it is addictive. Because what drugs will do is make you feel so nice that when it is gone, you want some more. So people use drugs to get the feeling over and over. But you know, the research has shown that God has made dopamine a natural part of our system that we don't have to pay for. If you achieve a goal, let's say you are studying for your degree, you're going through a lot of stress, but you hold on, and you get that degree. You walk up on stage and you're in your uniform and in your gown and so on, and you go up there and you feel that joy. Dopamine hits you. And the same thing that you say, I can't wait for this exam to done. And once I've done that, I'm not going back to do no more study. That feeling hits you after that, and then you say, I think I'm going for my master's. How come? Why? It is addictive. It wants you to feel that same way over and over again. So when you are at home during COVID and you have nothing creating in your life, nothing to go after and achieve, you don't get that feeling of achievement and wanting to do things. Depression steps in. You feel lethargic and you feel lost. So be creative with your time. Let the happy hormones take part of you. One of the things that you can also do is you can also be part of doing good things for other people. Because when you do good things for other people, it also brings a good feeling towards you and to other people. And even if you see somebody do something good to somebody else, you yourself feel good by seeing something good done to people. So again, the happy hormones of endorphins and so on and serotonin start operating. No Wi-Fi, no Wi-Fi, no Wi-Fi. Take off your Wi-Fi from your phone. Take off the Wi-Fi from your gadgets during that time. Because well, one is they say the Wi-Fi itself emits some rays, but you don't want to hear your phone pinging every so often. You don't want messages coming in every so often. And even if you put it to vibrate, the vibration is also addictive, that you want to say, I wonder who just sent me a message there, and so on. Sometimes just disconnect yourself from external. Set a regular bedtime. Tell yourself, I'm going to bed 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock every night. 9 to 10 is a good time because that's when the melatonin begins to hit the sleep-wake system, 9, 10 o'clock. And if you check from 9 and you give yourself 7, 8 hours, you're waking up in good time. You would have had your 2 a.m. deep sleep, etc. I know it is hard for some people, but work on that, especially during this time. Sleep at night. Don't tell yourself I'll sleep in the day. Daytime sleep is different from nighttime sleep. Trust me on that one. You see, because the body detects night and it is able to do its rejuvenation for night. And it will also detect day, even if you are sleeping in the day. Your sleep, daytime sleep, could never substitute for your nighttime sleep. And sleep in darkness. We spoke about that already. Sleep in comfortable places. Clean the room. Take some of those clothes that you washed and threw on the bed and haven't folded up yet. Take them and put them away. Have a clear bed. Have a comfortable room. Nice place that you could lie down and not feel too clustered. Do not eat too close to bedtime. I don't know how often we're going to say that and how much we need to say that, because your stomach goes to work and it prevents you from going into deep sleep because your stomach is active, your heart is active, your digestive system is active, and sometimes the food sits on your chest as though it is pounding at you to say, you so foolish. You give me work at this hour when you planning to go and sleep. So you toss and turn in your bed all night while your stomach is trying to digest. It's not going to help your digestive system. Try to make your last meal for the day 6 o'clock. Coming down to the end and then we opening up for questions. So we said the financial, we said the psychological, and now we're talking about the social issues. Social, we are social beings. We need to connect with others. So disconnection has its own issues. And during COVID, there's a lot of disconnection taking place. I feel many times disconnected from the members of the church. We used to hug and we have fellowship. We have in our congregation, everybody for the month, that current month, who celebrate a birthday, they would now treat the congregation to a meal and fellowship the closest Tuesday Bible class. After Bible class on the Tuesday, we'll always have fellowship, and sometime in the month of September, and like now, you have so many people, 4 or 5 people celebrating, so it's a big fellowship meal. All of that shut down. So there's a disconnect that we feel that we're missing out on in what we do. So there's loneliness in some people because some people are now by themselves, they live alone. So it is really a taxing time for them. Depression is beginning to step in. They become irritable, especially if you live with people who you do not connect well with. If you and your husband not getting along and you are locked down with your husband, that's a recipe for issues. If you and your children not getting along, that's a recipe for issues. If you and your landlord not getting along and you live in the same space with your landlord, you're looking for issues. So we have all these sort of things that are taking place. And so we need to learn to initiate friendships. Initiate friendship, because the Bible says he that would have friends must show himself friendly. Sometimes people look for others to be friendly to them. But in this time of lockdown, initiate, start a friendship. Get to know somebody. Get to be a friend. That itself is going to create a connection that is going to be valuable for you to keep your sanity during this time. So in we have a Scrabble club. There's a Scrabble that you could go online and you can play with brethren, this Scrabble group that you have. If you're interested in joining, just let me know. Send me a message at my number 480-0080. We have people from across the Caribbean in this Scrabble club. If you like to make words, it keeps your brain active. It keeps you connected to people. We also start a Ludo club. Some of you may remember what Ludo is. You can do Ludo online now, and you could play Ludo with any member of the church, anybody that you want, any part of the world. We do that every week. And some people who can't sleep 12 and 1 o'clock in the morning, they would attest to the fact that they are playing Scrabble and Ludo those hours to keep them still occupied and keep them connected. We have started a children's Zoom fellowship. What we do is that we recognize that the children, the toddlers, the 5-year-old and the 6-year-old, they're watching us on Zoom having worship and they have nothing. So what we do is that we put them on Zoom every Friday. And if you have a child that you want to be part of that, we put them on Zoom every Friday, 6 o'clock, and let the children just chat across the Caribbean with each other, make friends, and we'd also go through some system. My son ran through some system with them, help them to draw online, to do their drawings, and we teach them a Bible verse, and we engage them in some playtime on Zoom. They love it. It has been going great, but it keeps the connectivity and the social part going. We have an exercise class, aerobics class on Zoom. Yes, yes, on Fridays, 5 to 6 o'clock. If you want to be part of that, we are also welcome to be part of it. People in their home, they put on their cameras and they're exercising. We have an instructor that will be instructing you, a member of the church in Canaan, and they are part of that. If you don't want to be seen in your home because you have your on your tights, etc., you can just take off your camera and you work in the background. We have people from, I think our greatest supporters are the people in St. Lucia who are part of that Zoom exercise class. But that is to help build that social networking system that we talk about. We have a WhatsApp group where we post and we allow, normally we don't allow on the church chat any and everything, but now we are allowing people to post jokes. We are allowing people during the shutdown to post challenging topics and questions. And one of the recent ones that we had posted was, what a single woman has no boyfriend, but she's approaching the age where she'll pass in childbearing. She's a Christian and she wants to now go and have um, artificial insemination so that she can be a mother. And so we ask, is that a sin? So you have the debate going. Some people saying it was fornication because she has no man and she got pregnant. And some people saying it's not fornication because fornication needs an act and so on. So it encourages debate, it encourages discussion in the Bible, topics, etc. We have a singles chat for people who are unmarried, divorced, and separated. They are in that singles chat. We have a marriage chat for people who are married. And so you have marital discussions going on that one on the WhatsApp Zoom. If you wish to be part of that, you can also be part of that. Brethren, thank you so very much. I know that I took a bit long. I hope it really helped you all. And I hope that we did said some things that would help you at some point. Right? So I don't know if we're going to go for questions at this time.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks again, Brother Michael, for the material that we've gone through. For those who are just joining us, my name is Kwesi. I'm your host for this evening. So any questions based on what has been presented, feel free to use the raise hand function or even type the messages in the chat if you need any questions answered. Those who are on tablet mobile devices, that's in the more option on your phone. Press more, you should see the option to do that raise hand. Brother Michael, I have in the financial component of the presentation, the bit about savings, at least for between 6 months to 1 year. It's something that I would have heard from, I think, one of my first managers when I started working. He always recommended that be the case. It's always been something that I found challenging to get done because you start and then something comes up, you have to spend that money on something and then you have to restart. And so it's been a challenge. And so I know for the people who maybe did not know that before, they kind of get caught with their pants down, especially in this COVID season where people have lost their jobs, companies have been closing down, different things have been happening. And so I know it does put a lot of strain on some of the relationships as well for the breadwinners who will bring money home now, nothing coming in. So I know it's a difficult period for some people.
It is. So nothing beats savings. I can't overemphasize it enough. What people try to do, people, there are some people don't like to owe. So they pay off all their bills, but they end up with nothing. So as soon as a crisis happens, they're back into owing. So I want to encourage people to start a number of funds. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's what the parents say. Funds. Number one, start an emergency fund. An emergency account, take one of your accounts and put emergency money in it every month, even if it is $100. You're not going to be broke for $100. You'll be surprised. Even if it is $50, you're not going to go broke for $50. Yeah, because if something happens, you would use that $50 and do something that you'll be surprised that you even waste that money on $50 to do, such as buying a box lunch. So, right? So you could save your money from the box lunch and save the $50. Your emergency fund will grow over a period of time. And if I want to recommend that you all listen to Dave Ramsey, just Google Dave Ramsey. He's one of the experts on money management, right? So you have an emergency fund that should always be increasing, but you have a savings account. That savings account is separate from emergency. Emergency is for emergency, and a sale that is advertised is never an emergency. Even though they say it is for limited time only, it's not an emergency, right? So you do that and you have a savings account. That savings account is where you put your money in for plans that you have, assuming that you do have plans, whether it's for education, building a house, buying a property, whatever it is, you must have savings. Do not use savings to travel. Well, sorry, do not take a loan to travel. There are people who take loan for vacation. They take loan because Christmas coming up. And they take loans for this, that, and the other. Try as much as possible to reduce your loans. Let me tell you, you and I, the majority of the money that we work for goes to pay debt. If we had no debt, we would not have to work so hard. The extent of our hard work is because of debt. So you reduce your debts or get rid of debts completely, and you'll recognize that you and I can live on very little. You see? So don't take a loan to buy a vacation ticket to go and spend, and then now you have that loan after, where your vacation expense lasts longer than you have even imagined, because that loan has to be refinanced if you have to go on another vacation in 2 years' time. Save the money to buy it in cash. So, and then you have your expense account. That expense account would always rise and fall every month. It fluctuates, all right? And those, at least those three accounts. Of course, there are more pension and so on, but just for now.
We have one comment, one question from Sister Val. So she's saying, I'm struggling with emotions currently. So various stresses in 1 week. This week is the key factor. So you are correct that I must keep my mind active, because I can see how depression would sink in as I'm a single Christian. The question I have is regarding the influenza vaccine. So I have never got it as an adolescent, but with regard to COVID-19, there's a lot of chatter stating a person must get it, especially in the US. So do you recommend the flu vaccine?
Oh, well, that one, is completely out of my scope of competence.
Yeah.
And once it is outside of my scope of competence, I need to acknowledge that. And I acknowledge this one is outside of it.
I have no idea. I have no suggestions for the flu vaccine. I know some people take it routinely, because what I know of the flu vaccine, at least for flu, is that there are various strains of it. And so the vaccine is as good as this year, and then probably next year you have another vaccine, because the strain continues to change.
Yeah.
I don't know what impact it has on the COVID. That's one out of my core competency. But
Yes,
for the other comments, Sister Val, based on how the week has gone, I think this is where the social component of the COVID, I think, comes into place, especially being single. Keep the communication up with those who are like-minded, similar-minded, those that you could bounce things off of, reason off of, keep in contact. The worst thing to do, I think, is to be on your own, because your mind starts to play tricks on you. you start to do things that you probably would not have done. You start to get influences from different areas or sources that you normally wouldn't take it from. But those things tend to make sense at the point in time when you're at your weakest. So that will be my form of encouragement to you.
Yeah.
I think we have
So,
one more.
yeah.
There's a comment from Melan. Please pray for brethren in Bermuda. Storm Teddy. Thank you. So I believe the storm is approaching Bermuda as we speak. So they want us to remember them. I had one more comment on the finance, because my finance manager, my ex-finance manager, she always used to sing the Island Finance song, because she finds it very catchy, but she says it's one of the worst things that you could potentially do. And so at this time that we find ourselves with reduced income or even loss of work, I know the banks seem like a very good option, because you have public car payments to make, mortgage to pay, and there's a very good offer that the bank will present to you. Let's consolidate loans, and probably now is a good time to do it as interest rates are low. And so they'll bring you in, and then they'll probably also sneak in. So why not just take a little bit money to do something else around the house? And so the bank always seeks you to get some more money, that always seeks to increase debt. So my encouragement to people is to beware. As much as we are struggling at times to be able to make payments, make good and wise decisions, because they haunt you in the long term.
Yeah, and even the system that they have of waiving your payments for 3 months, even that becomes questionable, because their interest accrue interest during that period of time, from my understanding. And then in 3 months' time, you have to now pay up the arrears of those interests and your interest. So your loan is going to run longer, and you're technically paying more. So don't fall for this scheme. Don't become so desperate. Some people have called in and said, do not waive my fee. I will continue to pay my installment. That might be a cheaper option, right? We also find that people using the pyramid scheme and the susu as a way out. I want to suggest to people that finance, as everything else that God has created, operate by laws. And the current pyramid, well, I don't know how many people we have outside of Trinidad and Tobago on this Zoom and on probably the YouTube. But finance operates by a law. Agriculture operates by law. What you sow, you will reap. And finance says if you put in more than you take out, you will always have excess. If you take out more than you put in, you'll always be in lack. That's a law. There's no mathematical thing that could escape that. If you have a susu and the money that you put in is unproductive, in a real susu, you put in $500 for 5 months and the money is unproductive, the law says I'm supposed to reap exactly what I sow. I'm supposed to get back my $5,000 in 10 months. That's okay because it obeys the laws of finance. But the current susu that we're seeing says that you put in $9,000, you'll get back $72,000. This 72 is not being productive. The 9 is not being productive, and you are able to get back 72,000. That law does not abide by financial laws. So there is going to be a point in time that you'll run out of your 9,000 people that you could get in, your 2 people to bring you up to 9,000. You'll run out of that person. And the people who were in early may have gotten theirs, and the people who are coming in late may not get theirs. So we have to be careful in our desperation, because people say it will help me to pay off my debts and I could be able to stop pay the bank and so on. And because of their financial stress, they have been entering into some stuff. And the thing is, we've got to be wise in our money management issues.
Agreed. I have one more question from Ingrid Green. Says, is being awake at 4:30 a.m. when the body is at the lowest temperature bad for one's health?
No, in fact, there's and if she wants, I could send her. We sent something that somebody sent me that 4 o'clock. Most successful people get up at 4 o'clock. That they said. Most rich successful people, because one, you think better. Christ himself got up early in the morning. Um, and so there's a greater, your temperature is low, your body gets ready to get going. You also get a jump on the day because you only have 24 hours. Everybody has 24 hours. The reason why some people can't get through with everything they want in the day is because they are actually getting up later and they have fewer hours to operate with. I have a friend of mine who recently passed. He has a hardware, and the hardware stores usually open at 8 o'clock. He opens at 6. And so I asked, well, why do you open at 6? He said, when I open at 6, the number of customers that come in, I get to pay between 6 and 8 o'clock. I already get the amount of money I need to start paying my loan. So if he does that for 5 days or 6 days a week of opening for 6 o'clock, he makes more money than somebody who has to wait till 8 o'clock to open up. So sometimes he says he's there and he has not opened yet, and people knock. He say, while other people get vexed that the people come and disturb them, he say, I willingly open and give them what they need. So waking up 4 o'clock helps you to get an extra edge on your day. In the end of it, you can be able to see how much more that you have accomplished that other people have not. But just remember, you still need to go to bed earlier in order to get it done in time.
No, it's the first time I've actually heard the term that circadian rhythm.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I was aware of the body requiring sleep and when you should go to sleep, etc. How much hours you potentially need. But the term is something I was not really aware of. So Ingrid is agreeing that her mind is the sharpest in the morning periods. I would agree with that. It's even sharper those hours that you say that we should be asleep, where we have deep sleep at 2 a.m. If anytime I find myself up at that time, I'm actually the best at that time, between 2 and 4 a.m. Strangely enough, if I'm up, than if I'm up later in the day, like let's say after 8 or 9. My body's a
Right.
little bit weird, I think.
Yeah. But you
But
see, if you do that often enough, because your body is not getting the deep sleep, you are beginning to degenerate and not regenerate. Yeah.
I've seen that, I think, in my own body.
Right. And so if you watch people who lime late and lime late at night and do that often enough, they would look older than you are because they are not regenerating. Their cells are not getting a chance to renew itself and look younger and so on. So late limers, you could tell them.
Another dimension that I've discovered with the COVID is the need for online classes now. So we have online school, and so I've seen and heard of a few households that are under stress. And by household I mean the married couples, husband and wife, because they're juggling work while trying to get children prepared for online classes. Um, One of my co-workers was telling me that it's the first time she had an actual blowout with her husband because of that. Because she finds herself being the one in the kitchen cooking, needing to prepare the children for class starting at 8:30 online while trying to balance her own workload. Then to be told by the husband that he was tired. So I know some people that's putting a strain on some families, some relationships, depending on how we manage it.
Yes, yes, yeah. Because, and I'll tell you, because of the distraction of getting up to go to work and so on, and you're out of the house 8 hours in the day, there are some relationships that they themselves do not recognize how disconnected and how much they have grown apart. But the distraction hid it. Now that they are both home for hours, they are beginning to recognize we really don't know each other. We really have not connected. And that's why there are some people who would live together for years, make children, and when the children are grown and out of the house, they separate or divorce. Because it's now become real. We did not have a foundation in ourselves. The children were keeping us together. The bills. So sometimes when people have paid off for the house and they paid off for the car and paid off for those big bills, they begin to recognize that, hey, the reason I was in it is because I needed that other person's money also to help for us to be able to survive. But now that we don't need it, then fracture starts to show up. So now is the time to start working on the relationship, doing things together, playing together, talking together, resolving some issues together, and getting the relationship off on a good foot.
Yeah, agreed. Brother Antoine, I see the hand is raised. Feel free to unmute and pose
Yes,
the question.
brother. I am very much concerned about the impact that the COVID-19 is having in respect to our fellowshipping. Whereas we seize the opportunity to have worship on the Zoom, right? And I think Mike alluded to it that he received a call and he asked the brother, "Isn't it that you should be worshiping?" And he said he forget that they were online. I am very much concerned what will be happening after the COVID have left us. In the sense that I'm speaking of the church and the new way of worship that we're using now, which is Zoom, because you are very much concerned because when you look at the numbers, you're wondering what is happening if people are worshiping. And if after the COVID-19, if you will have your membership, because people seem to get kind of lackadaisical about worshiping, I think we need to utilize our time also to communicate with our brethren to encourage them. I remember the Hebrew writer talk about encouraging the brother as we see the day approaching, right? Because some was really kind of lackadaisical about their fellowship. So I'm wondering what's going to happen to us as a church after COVID-19.
That's a deep concern. Let me say that God's design in my book was gathering. And that's why I said, do not forsake the assembling of yourselves. And when they had gathered together, Paul preached unto them, and we talk about when you come together, Acts chapter 20, verse 7. So there is that coming together, gathering together, and there was that physical thing. The psychologists say that you know how we operate here. What I can be able to understand from Brother Kwesi in this discussion is only what his camera would allow me to see. So it is very limited. So when you watch a ball game, a cricket match, whatever it is only what the camera makes you see that you can make a judgment on, that you can make a conclusion on. But when you are face to face with somebody, you can have a proper idea based upon all the other trimmings and physicals, etc. It's a difficult thing to court with somebody on camera because you are only going to be subject to the things that they allow you to see. So we cannot substitute virtual for the gathering. But under the prevailing circumstances, it is an alternative until we are able to meet back together and then meet in full fellowship one to another, right? Because the physical touch, the physical connection always outweighs the virtual. I don't know of anybody who wants to run a family by virtual. Which parent says, well, I don't need to see my son again because at least I've seen him on Zoom. No, you want your son to visit. You want to visit your son. You want to visit your child, your daughter. You want to see your wife in person, because that is what it is. That is what creates connection. This is just a facade, and we cannot get too comfortable with it. So we need to let the church know, don't plan for this. Use it as the alternative and utilize the benefits that you have while you have it. And it will continue even after, but it will not be the mainstay.
I agree totally. And so Brother Earl, I share the same concerns. Um, what I've realized for some people is that the convenience of the online worship has played into a lot of the desires that some people may have had, which is to not gather in the first place. And so it just has allowed them the opportunity to act on the desire.
Mm-hmm.
So for those, we continue to pray for, to reach out to, because allowing it to continue, I think, is what continues to make our relationships strained when we don't gather. And so I encourage it at the most point that we always spend time, even if it's on the Zoom, that we gather, have conversations with people to encourage them along. Because the more that we distance ourselves, it's the easier to remain apart.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anybody else? Any other questions, comments?
Good evening. I don't know if you all are hearing me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Right. My question is, and I must say it has been a very, very, very informative discussion and information this evening on Brother Stewart's part, on your part also. And I quite agree. I quite agree with your input that to me, for some brethren, it's just an avenue to, right, I don't have to go to church. If you understand what I'm saying, from when you look at it, it's like, were they ever there? Because is this reason? Yes, we cannot worship individually or as a group, but through the Zoom and the YouTube, we are still there. So use every opportunity that we have now, whilst it is what is law now. But outside of that, well, if they're not even coming on this, then it sometimes tells a different story. But my question is on the financial part. If there is someone who basically tries to help everyone and give and give and give and leaves nothing for themselves, and then someone else have to come now and give to them. How do you deal or help a person who sees this COVID period in that light? Yes, there are needs, but you have to have a limit, and like they cannot see that limit. And when you have to turn around now and help them, how do you deal? How do you talk to a person like that?
Well, it's hard helping a drowning man to the point where the drowning man has to turn around and save you from drowning. When you go out there, you are trying to help the drowning man from drowning, but you must have the resources to do that. I was teaching a lesson one day in church, and along that same line, and I asked, if you see a man drowning and you jump off the jetty and you jump in the water to save the person, but the person in their desperation and in their desire to be saved, they are grabbing on you, pushing you underwater so that they could stand on top of you, but you are not getting a chance to breathe and to survive. What would you do? Well, we had a visitor in the audience who said, he will want the Lord to guide him with that. And he says that, sometimes we have to just give up for the sake of other people and so on. But my question to him was, but if he pushes me under, he was drowning in the first place, which means he couldn't save himself, and he pushes me under, wouldn't that now cause him to drown in the end? Because the only two of us there. So they asked me, what would I do? I say, well, there'll be two people in that water. But if I'm being pushed underwater and I cannot breathe, one of us will be attending the funeral of the next one. And I will be the person attending. You understand? Because there comes a point that you have to make a decision that somebody is an albatross around your neck. And you have to save yourself so that that person in the drowning state do not cause you to drown also. If you're on a plane, they always say, put on your mask first, because you have no help to the person if you give them the mask and you are not in a position, especially with a child. You see? So allow yourself, and financially you do that. Some people are so altruistic. They want to help so many people that they just giving and giving and giving because they just can't say no. But there are times that you just have to say no, I'm unable to. You see,
Thank
so
you.
that you can keep financially afloat to keep helping people. And that's my unswerving position on that particular question.
Thank you so much, Brother Stuart, which I already knew, but it's just to get the message to the person. But thank you very much.
Okay.
And just to speak to the first comment you made, Sister Yvette. So I found that listening to Jesus's comments in the New Testament, he said he came to, at least for those people who are healthy, there's no need for physician. So it's really the people who are sick that need the physician. And so for the people who find themselves distancing or not wanting to be around, those are actually the ones that we need to pay more attention to stick closer to. It so happens that in the spaces that we exist in, even in the church, what tends to happen is that those people remain on the outside for some reason, and we say, well, okay, if you don't want to be here, then don't be here. We make little effort to help encourage them along. So my recommendations are always to pay more focus, I think, on those people to help them through the difficult periods.
True. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions, comments? Brother Antoine, see your raised hand.
It's Sister Antoine. Good
Sister
afternoon,
Antoine,
everyone.
okay.
Good afternoon, Chrissy.
Good evening. Hi.
Michael.
Hi.
I think a lot of people are stressed out about COVID because COVID is new. And with anything that is new and you feel threatened by it, stress will come about. But what we have to bear in mind is that, yes, we are in this generation and we are experiencing this, but in time past, examples of the old, in times with Moses and all of these people, they experienced stress also, right? The children of Israel, they experienced stress also. So we must bear in mind that, yes, COVID will come and COVID will go, and something else will come up. It might be a disease that you might experience. It might be a loss of a child. It might be a loss of a spouse. Life is just full of stresses. It all depends on how you manage it, how you manage your stress. And I know that we did not deal with the spiritual aspect, but if we really, this is like a test for us to see how strong our faith is in God. And if we really take this time to really build our faith in God, I think that's going to really help us in this time to cope with COVID. Also, we need to be aware that, as with anything that we are not very knowledgeable about, as the scriptures say, people without a knowledge perish. We must be, acquainted with all that we need to know about COVID and follow all the protocols that we need to follow in order to help us to survive this, right? So we need to do these things, as well as we are away from the normal that we call normal, which is rushing to work and being busy and coming home and see about the children. So we are away from that now, and it's all of that is actually happening in the home now. We're working from home. These children are being homeschooled and all of that. And it's just now to organize your day in a different way. So husband and wives, instead of quarreling with one another, sit down and plan the day. Okay, this is what is happening in the home right now. How are we gonna cope? How are we gonna do a different shift from the norm? Instead of hustling to work, we are home, we are watching the children, and organize all your affairs in a different way. And you will find that you will be able to manage all that is happening. Take time off for yourself, put a little music on, listen to a little music, do things that you like to do. Ladies, do a little facial, polish your nails, do something to regenerate yourself, and you will find that we will be able to come out of it better for it.
Well said. Agreed.
Amen to that.
Any other questions, comments? I don't see any more raised hands. Nothing's in the chat. Okay. So I'll tell you about myself because I'm the only reference point I can use here. From a finance standpoint, I always ask myself, am I displaying or having faith, or am I just existing with the financial benefits that I've been able to reap? And why I say that sometimes is I have a few people that I help now, and I often say to them, I said, well, you guys have no recurring income. And so I am blessed enough to have salary that comes in every month. So I give you what I have, and then because I expect to get that money every month. And then, so I don't know if my living has been based on faith, if it's just the fact that I'm able to get paid every month. So if my salary then goes away, then that's the time when I need to now show that level of faith that I've been preaching to other people. While it's been easy enough in my life, it's not really practicing faith, but it's just being able to benefit from the physical aspects of life. I don't know if that makes sense.
I understand what you're saying. You let me know. It is always best to give out of your excess, out of your abundance, always. But while you could give out of your lack and out of your little, you can only help so many people.
True.
But if you have abundance, you can give out of it. And the mistake that the rich man made, who's going to keep brought forth plentifully, was the fact that he says, I will store it up and I will eat, drink, and be merry because I will die tomorrow. He did not consider that God gives us abundance to increase the number of people that we can assist with the abundance that he has given us. So, but in order for God to give us abundance, God needs to see how good we are with little. So if we are faithful with little, then we will become faithful in much. There are some people who are so giving, they should be rich, because God knows that if I give that person more, they will give more. But there are some people who God also knows that they are giving because they don't have. So they feel for people who don't have. But God, I figure, also knows that if I give them much, they will change. They will start hoarding and not want to give. So they are that side of the pendulum. Just another part that I want to put in. I used to feel bad when people ask for money and you meet beggars on the street and so on, and you don't give them. I felt unchristian-like. But I started to question myself as to whether God is going to bless me for giving somebody who asked, or whether he will bless me for giving somebody who needs. And I figure the blessing of God goes with where I have supplied a need. So I pull up in the gas station one day, and a guy came to me and said, he wants a $10. I said, then he's young, strong, no disability, nothing. And so he's there with just begging cars as they come into the gas station. I said, I could give you $10 if you just clean my windscreen. And he said, Mister, I didn't come and ask you for no work. It's $10 I'm asking you for, so either you're giving me $10, you're not giving me $10. I feel giving him $10, I'm enabling a mentality And I don't think that God is going to bless me for enabling a mentality that says, I can just sit here, wait on cars to come in. They must work and produce money. And I have no work. I must just reap the money. And we need to differentiate between becoming a righteous person in giving and giving just because we want to feel righteous. I have no desire to feel righteous by giving you. I want to make sure I put you in a better position. We also tell the members of the church, anytime we're in a position that you have need, we are going to willing to help you with your need. But one of the things that we want to do is to put you in a setting and a footing that you are in a position now to supply other people's need. So it is not that we would be doing this every time and so on. We need to sit down with you and understand what caused your lack, and now help in advising you how to come out of lack. We will help you in this instant, but it must be aiming towards a self-sufficiency and an independence so that we could multiply the number of people that we could help, because you now become a helper and not that you become constantly a person who's coming to ask for help.
We have, Jassy just shared 2 Thessalonians 3:10 as the recommended reading. So it reads, so for when we were with you, this we command, you that if any would not work, neither should he eat.
Appropriate scripture. Thank you very much, Jassy. On point.
Yeah.
I remember that I was in a place and somebody came up to ask for money, and I told them, I assessed them, and I said no, I'm not going to give. And the person said, isn't that unchristian like? And I'm saying no. This person is clearly in a position to work. Clearly, and some of these people you get to know, and they don't want to work. They need you to go to work so that you could be able to help them. And so you have to make a decision on that. And some people will call you unchristian like for not giving and so on. It's unfortunate, but we live in a country where people are takers and they don't want to be able to produce. And COVID is now forcing us to be producers and not consumers.
Agreed. All right, so I don't see any more comments, any more raised hands. It's now 7:15. So we'll try to wrap up unless anybody else has any further comments. I'll just leave us with a few thoughts with respect to family enhancement. As we know, camp normally would be October, but because of the COVID, it's not going to happen this year. I think it's the first time that we'll be missing a camp over the last 20 or so years. So it really is a difficult period. It's a time that we've not seen before in our lifetime, at least in mine. And so we will not have camp. I know Jassy was joking about having virtual camp, Zoom camp. I don't know how we could do that, but we'll see what could be done with the community. If later in the year it allows us to gather, we'll see if we can arrange something so that we can keep the togetherness going. More than likely, this may be the last class, the family enhancement class for the year. If there are to be others, of course, we'll communicate accordingly and we'll share. But coping with COVID was designed, I think, to be the last class for the year, in keeping with what we were hoping to do for the family enhancement. So my encouragement for everybody is that we keep in touch. Let's allow people the space to be able to reach out and they could get some support, some help. Let's not remain in the holes that we find ourselves in. Let's encourage each other along. My parting words from a scriptural standpoint, if we pay attention to what our Bible tells us, reading from Old into New, you find these reoccurring themes. So one such theme is there's a desire from God for us to be able to execute this life by righteousness and justice. And in doing that, we're called to both love God, to love neighbor as ourselves. And extending that, we read in James that the poor, the fatherless, and the widows is also that recurring theme that seems to happen both old and new. And so that's a community of people that are considered to be marginalized. Those are the ones that we should be concerned about, because we do find in our community a lot of single parents, single mothers, and children who are often orphaned by some of the criminal acts that we see in our society. So let's continue to remember them and do what we can to support and to encourage those people along. As much as we are blessed, let's seek to bless others. If we have no other comments or questions, I'll close us off. I'll end us off in prayer.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Sister Brenda here. I see
Brenda,
Sister Divina is on tonight. She is from Bermuda. I don't know if she could give us an update of what's going on there. Sister Divina Lightborn, she's a member of the church in I see she is on. I don't know if she could give us what's going on over there at this time.
Bermuda.
Yes, Sister Divina. She's on. I'm seeing her thing there. Sister Divina.
Bermuda is in the line of the hurricane that is steaming up.
Yeah, the one that is coming out. So she sent a message to me asking us to pray for the congregation over there and pray for the people in Bermuda. So I'm seeing her name up there, but I don't know if she's on.
And now we have one request from Milan.
She's on.
Good evening. This is Sister Divina Lightborn from the Brighton Hill Road Church of Christ in Bermuda. Yes, we are experiencing lots of waves, which are really high, probably like 40 out at sea, 20 inland, and it's really starting to take a toll on us. Just come out of Paulette. Now we're dealing with Teddy, and it's another one off in the Atlantic Ocean that we have an eye on as well. So it's not the first time that Bermuda has had a storm back to back. At one point, it was just giving us 3 days, but at least we have a few more, days later, much more, that we can continue to, revamp and restock. And so we're on lockdown now. Part of the east end of the island has been cut off from the mainland for protection because the wave surge can do a lot of damage on our causeway, and the airports are closed down. So Bermuda will be closed down tomorrow as well as Tuesday. They give us an extra day to make sure that everything is all cleared and the trees and whatever damage that has to be cleared away for the main roads for, ambulance and, the essential members that can get back and forward. But so far, so good. I am prepared. My roof did get damaged in Paulette, and it was repaired, because if I would have left it, I may not have a roof if Teddy comes and does his damage. So I am on lockdown, and all is well thus far. So continue to pray for us, because Bermuda is an island which has been truly blessed through a lot of hurricanes in my time. So just continue to keep us up in prayer. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, we will. All right, so let me close us off in prayer, and we will be dismissed. Please bow with me.
Thank you.
Our most gracious and loving Father, this evening, Lord, we are thankful for another opportunity. We've been able to come gather on the Zoom deck, God, to spend some time together. We're thankful for Brother Michael and for his dedication, for his knowledge, his ability to deliver the material that he has put together. We are desirous, dear Father, of being able to encourage and to support each other during this time, this COVID that we live in, this uncharted waters, dear God, that we have been able to negotiate. Help us to continue to show that love and compassion that it continues to reign in us, dear Father, that love that you ask that we continue to show, that people may know that we are yours. We are asking, dear Father, in our living, nowadays that we continue to be good to each other. We continue to be a good support for each other as we continue on. We are praying on behalf of the brethren in Bermuda, even for the island, the entire country, that God, that you continue to be there for them. We pray for strength, we pray for safety, we pray for safe passage of the storm, that God, this hurricane as it continues to move over the island, that God, we do pray for reduced casualty damage, that God, for safety for everybody that may be there. We're asking that God that for us as a people, that as we have been blessed enough, that God, to be spared so many times, we're asking that we continue to remember them in prayer, continue to be supportive as best as we can, and even to share with what we have for those who may be less fortunate than us. We're asking that they continue to look over us, you continue to guide, and you protect us. We ask this prayer through no other name but through your Son, Jesus the Christ. Amen. All right. For everybody who's here, thank you much for your attendance, for your time, for the questions, the comments, conversations that we've had. Feel free, I guess, now if you would like to interact, you can speak with each other, spend some time together. I believe that the link is going to be operational for the next 24 hours or so. To see if we could encourage each other along. Brother Mutch, you're still there?
Yep.
Anything to be said? Any other comments?
Well, not really. I mean, over the years, we look forward to camp and, pulling pranks. I have no opportunity to win any trophies this year and singing and so on. So
that's no point. We could do some online Scrabble, man.
Tell what you call yourself.
Yeah. But, God is good, and, we could pull out of it. I take Brother Antoine's recommendation, though we need to continue, calling and, whatever social platform to communicate with each other so that we can, encourage one another through this time, people going through different things. I am a bit concerned, though, let's say from the point of view from churches, what is the collective effort to actually find out and take care of those who are in need? I mean, we're not. What is the collective effort to actually? Yeah. So what I'm saying is that we have to get together, as individual congregations, but collectively, and pool our resources. The hurricane season this year is going to be so active that we're seeing, for maybe not for 50 years, we have seen where 3, 4, 5 storms continually to be brewing at the same time, and a lot of them is coming close to Trinidad. So we have to even look at that, and ensure to encourage our brethren to be prepared in terms of medicine, and those who might be ill, making sure you have reserve medication, put down water, foodstuff, sandbags. Sometime electricity will go down, so lamps, candle, all the different safety practice in the midst of this COVID. So we got to be a little more alert as to the weak members, the elderly one, the younger one, those who are not working. We need to really stay on top of it. So I just, advising along that line.
I would like to give God all the praise and glory for our forefathers who have, for many years, went over our building plans and how to build stronger homes, and our stone homes and the way how they are made can weather many storms. As people stay in their homes in Bermuda, then they wouldn't have too much damage at all to the buildings. And also our roof system and stuff like that. So I give God all the praise and glory for the knowledge that they gave them. So, we just go into a safe part of our homes. And because the last storm, Paulette, I just watched out my windows and just watched the nature, the wind and the rain. And I was shocked to see birds still flying. I'm like, wow, what you doing now? It was amazing. I was kind of enjoying the, watching the nature just take its place from trees that weathered and stood firm. And you know, I was thinking about in living water and how, you know, us as Christians, if we're grounded in you know, living water, nothing can't move us, storms, tornadoes, or whatever. And so the only damage that has a lot of roof damage is basically if the roof really is like all these slates come off, it's basically due to tornadoes that's hit the house or coming to its path. But otherwise than that, you know, the wind shifted my roof a bit and it caused the crack, and that's what caused the water to seep through. And a brother of the church came to my rescue. I called him. He deals with roof, and he came the next day and fixed it, and it's all in good order. So I give God all the praise and glory for the brethren of the church that come to each other's aid when we need it.
Amen.
Amen.
Well, I hope this year that, you know, around the Caribbean, we continue to, as they're saying cricket, rally around the West Indies. So we really need to do that.
Yeah, no, I agree, sister. There's been a amen to that, and I say, I guess, comfort in your spirit, because you seem very upbeat still,
Yes.
despite having gone through successive storms. So we continue to pray on behalf of you and the people there on the island.
Amen, indeed.
Thank you. Okay, well, I'm going to bid everyone good night so I can go ahead and charge up everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the next time we'll have good report. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Okay. Good night.
Good night.
Right.
All right. It's 2 minutes to 7. So